Welcome back. Right. Last week we discussed how we were on this important trend line, and whether you were bullish or bearish, right? It seemed highly probable that the market, would bounce up to that 4,500 level. And that's what happened, right? So it's gonna get more interesting this week, given that, the bounce has happened. So it's time for the market to, kind of make a decision or move on what it wants to do further. As I've mentioned, right? I've more this thing for the blue path for the variety of reasons I've mentioned. But yeah, I mean, I've also told you that it's absolutely no way that this red line is ruled out. Like it has every reason for the market to, kind of sell off. So, I mean, I still can't tell you with high probability whether we're going to take the blue path or the red path. So yeah, let's just discuss the different options, right? I would say the red is more likely if, you know, we manage to break down below 4427, right? Otherwise, again, something to note is if I go to like, SPX, you can see that we do have a giant gap to fill here. So I mean, I won't even be surprised if we, go up to fill the gap and then boom, you have that massive leg down. Like that's completely possible. You know how gaps are magnets, right? So that is something to point out that there is a gap remaining. But as I have firmly stated, I still on the side of, the bulls. But again, the dollar is not looking really supportive, right? This is kind of where I had my resistance level. So ideally, right, honestly depends on the dollar, what's going to happen, right? Either we, have that kind of fake breakout because we did bounce off that support here. So either we kind of have that fake breakout here, right? With the move down, which again would push the equities, or if dollar, right? As you can see here, if dollar, continues to break out, then I don't really see any resistance up till 107, and that's going to put a lot of bearish pressure on the equities. And you can just see the structure, right? Generally, I would have honestly been more confident if we didn't have such a choppy structure, but this is a very typical ABC in my book, if you ask me. So that's why I'm a little more hesitant to, kind of be super bullish. But again, there's another way, right? If you are bullish, like you can definitely, I mean, this could be some sort of 1-2, right? And then again, you go up for the 3, and you come down for the 4, and then you have the fifth wave, which again is the primary scenario we have been monitoring, right? If I go to the chart of NDX and Q, I forgot where I had a wave. Yeah, you can see here that I didn't actually draw the bear version. I just left the bullish. I mean, it's pretty obvious to me what the bear version would be, right? It would just be a retouch of this, and then we come down, which is why I didn't draw it, because I have it in my head. But by not doing that, right, I just wanted to be on the page of the bulls. But yeah, I mean, I know I keep saying the same thing, dollar breakout, but it's just not giving any clues, right? But on the other hand, if we look at the 10-year, right, we did have that solid rejection rate off this channel back to this 4% support. So again, the yields are also at a pretty important level, right? Because they're going to do one of two things. Either this bounce, right, is going to get rejected and come back down, like I've been intonating for a while, or it just follows along this path, right? Path of least resistance, and then continues the bull flag breakout, which again, judging by the way this motion has been taking place, it's not very typical for a wave 5 to behave that way, right? And also we know that TLT structure, right, as also, filled a gap, and now it's kind of intonating a breakout. But again, till we get over, 98.51, there is no breakout. So all the indicators that I generally look at are giving me mixed signals. So all I can do is show you both the paths, right? If we do break below 4461, then at the very least, we're going to come down to 4,300, I'd say. And if we can fill the gap, right? And I mean, like, you will see some weakness once the gap is filled. But what you need to see is a higher low being formed once the gap is filled, so the market can, move on and march higher, which is, again, what bulls need to establish. And for bulls to establish such a behavior, you would need a strong rejection of the dollar, right? Here, I mean, a little more push and then a sell-off. Again, like I said, this is probably your ABC. Would again guarantee a false breakout, but again, you can't just make an assumption of a false breakout without at least seeing some kind of reversal. So there's that. Just still lean on the side of caution, but something that I probably am more sure of, and I mentioned, right, is that China stocks do look pretty weak, right? This is a bull bear flag breakdown. We retested, and then now you can probably see that we have a massive bearish engulfing. I mentioned on Twitter. I've also said this a lot on Discord that, these bounces will probably get shorted. So, I mean, I could be wrong, right? I'm probably wrong if KWEB breaks over 31, but if it doesn't, right, and it continues to follow through, then we very likely, come down to the 26. With that being said, let's look at PDD, right? Personally think this is an ABC, may go, right, as high as 106, but I do see this firmly getting rejected, right? Law of the channel, right? Come back to the bottom of this channel. And I do think that this earnings gap at 80 does get filled at some point in the next month or so. So yeah, I am feeling pretty bearish on PDD and same for Baba as well, right? I mean, I put this last week. If it can reject and come back down, I mean, it just still, this is just a B wave action. So you can see, right? This is the channel as resistance. So if Baba like stays below 93, then, probably comes back down to 80 as well. Same as PDD. So, I mean, that's just something to watch out for. And if you are bullish Baba, then 102, right? If you can break 102, then you can definitely see 120. So yeah, that's why I have PDD. Again, Microsoft, again, as you can see on this, right, I have both the bull and bear versions, which again, I told you I can't really say which is more probable, right? Just because of the way the yields, the dollar, and, let's look at the wicks, right? Before I talk about Microsoft, even the wicks, right? You can see that literally like the wicks has had such a massive sell-off, and now we're gapping up this morning, but all we've done is like we've kind of just stayed in a range, right? You can see here, this is one range, and again, we just pretty much just bounced off of support. So I mean, this is not indicative of whether something is bullish or bearish. I just know long-term picture, this major trend line for the wicks broke down, right? And now it had a massive sell-off. So yeah, I mean, this is not highly indicative of, of a bearish thing. Like wicks would have to break over like 19 to even, cause any kind of volatility in the market. Right now, it's just kind of choppy and sideways. So again, can't really say. So I'll discuss both the bull and bear versions for Microsoft. You can see here, this is, right, since August, right, this is your major level of resistance. So if Microsoft can break over 333, then it has a gap to fill at 346, and it will very likely, head up to that gap fill. If it, rejects, right, I mean, it can go a little lower before it reverses higher, but I would use this level, right? You can see here, this was a level of support, which has led to bounces, right? So I would say if we break 327, right, then we're likely going to come back to 320 and even back down to 315. So those are your bull and bear options. On Microsoft, the next one is American Express. Again, you can kind of see some kind of flag breakout forming, right? I mean, like the next level of resistance is at 163. So I'll put it this way. If we can stay over 160, right, then probably 162, 163 is possible. If we can't, right, hold over this previous high at 159, we probably break down further. But yeah, starting to look productive, right? And last but not the least is NVIDIA. Again, bull and bear is going to look the same, right? Pretty choppy action, right? If we can, you can see this is a trend line. It's been holding. Sorry, if this is the trend line it's been holding, and this green line is nothing but the level that acted as resistance we broke out of, right? And now we're rejecting again. So very simply put, right, if we can break below, I'd say 375, then we very likely, come down to 450. I mean, 475, we very likely come down to 450. And to be bullish, right, all you need to do is hold this channel, right? Just keep it above this level. If you can keep it above and break like 497, then we can definitely see 510, 520. So your bull and bear indicators, right? You can just wait to see which way this pennant breaks. before trading NVIDIA. So that's all I have for this week. Thank you so much.